I'd been working the graveyard shift at Morrison's petrol station for nearly 3 years, and I thought I'd seen it all. Proper mental stuff, yeah? Drunk blokes trying to pay with Monopoly money, chavs nicking crisps, the odd crackhead having a full conversation with the Lucozade display. But nothing, and I mean absolutely nothing, could have prepared me for what happened that Tuesday night in October. It was 2:30 in the morning, dead quiet like usual. The kind of silence that makes you hear your own heartbeat. I was sat behind the counter scrolling through my phone, trying to stay awake with my fourth energy drink of the shift. The fluorescent lights were buzzing overhead, that annoying electrical hum that you learn to tune out after a while. Outside, the forecourt was empty except for a few moths battering themselves against the lights like tiny kamikaze pilots. That's when the door chimed. I looked up, ready to plaster on my customer service smile, but the words died in my throat. This bloke stood in the doorway, absolutely soaked through. Water was literally pooling around his feet on the lino. His clothes were plastered to his body, his hair dripping, but here's the thing, it hadn't rained in nearly a week. We'd been having one of those random autumn dry spells. "All right, mate," I said, trying to sound casual, but my voice came out a bit shaky. "Bit wet out there, is it?" He didn't answer. Didn't even look at me. Just walked past the counter with this weird, stiff gait, like his joints weren't quite working properly. The squelching of his trainers on the floor made my skin crawl. He stopped right in front of the security mirror we had mounted in the corner, you know, one of those convex ones so you can see the whole shop. And he just stared at it. 1 minute passed. Then 2. I kept glancing between him and the till, wondering if I should call someone. My manager? The police? The bloke was giving me proper bad vibes, standing there like a statue, water still dripping off him in steady streams. His reflection in the mirror looked distorted, stretched, wrong somehow. "You alright there, mate?" I tried again, my hand hovering near my phone. "Looking for something specific?" 3 minutes. 4. The clock on the wall seemed to tick louder with each second. The fluorescent lights flickered once, twice. My heart was absolutely hammering now. Something was seriously off about this situation. The way he stood so perfectly still, like he wasn't even breathing. The water that kept dripping even though surely he should have been mostly dry by now. The fact that he hadn't blinked once. 5 minutes. That's when I noticed his eyes in the mirror's reflection. They were fixed on something, but not on his own reflection. They were looking at mine. Staring directly at where I stood behind the counter, even though his body was facing away from me. "Right, look, mate," I started, but he cut me off. "You're not supposed to be here tonight." His voice was quiet, flat, completely emotionless. Like a recording of a human voice rather than an actual person speaking. "What?" I said, my mouth going dry. "What do you mean? This is my shift. I work Tuesdays." But he was already walking toward the door, that same mechanical gait. He didn't turn around, didn't acknowledge me again. Just walked straight out into the night. The door chimed as it closed behind him, and suddenly I could breathe again. I stood there for a moment, proper shaken, before my brain kicked back into gear. The cameras. We had cameras all over the shop. I quickly pulled up the security feed on the laptop under the counter, rewinding to when the door had opened. Nothing. The door opened by itself. I watched the timestamp, watched myself look up and start speaking to empty air. The water puddles were there on the floor, clear as day, but no person. No drenched bloke staring at the mirror. Just me, looking terrified, talking to absolutely nobody. "Bollocks," I whispered, my hands shaking as I replayed it again. And again. Same thing. The door opens. Water appears. I react. But no person. Not a single frame showed anyone but me in that shop. I didn't sleep the rest of my shift. Sat there with every light on, jumping at every tiny sound. When my manager Sarah finally showed up at 6, I must have looked like absolute death because she immediately asked what was wrong. I told her everything, expecting her to laugh it off or tell me I'd been working too many night shifts. Instead, her face went pale. Properly ghost white. "Eli," she said slowly, sitting down on the stool next to me. "What's today's date?" "October 17th, I said. "Why?" She pulled out her phone, scrolled through something, then showed me the screen. It was an old news article from exactly 1 year ago. "Local petrol station worker killed in robbery," the headline read. I scanned the text, my stomach dropping with every word. A 24-year-old employee named Marcus Chen had been working the overnight shift when someone came in, robbed the place, and stabbed him. He bled out right there on the shop floor before the ambulance arrived. The CCTV had been faulty that night, never recorded the killer. The article included a photo. I felt like I might be sick. It was him. The same bloke who'd stood in our shop 2 hours ago, dripping wet, staring at that mirror. Same face. Same build. Same everything. We were closed that night a year ago for the investigation, Sarah said quietly. The shop was shut down for nearly a week. You shouldn't have been working. You literally were not supposed to be here tonight. We accidentally scheduled you. I was meant to tell you yesterday that this shift was cancelled, but I forgot. She showed me the rota. My name was crossed out in red, with closed anniversary written next to it. A note I'd never received. A shift I should never have worked. He was found near the mirror, Sarah continued, her voice barely above a whisper. The police said it looked like he'd been trying to see who was behind him. They reckon he saw the killer's reflection first. I never worked another night shift after that. Put in for transfer to days only, didn't even care about the pay cut. But sometimes, when I'm closing up and it's getting dark outside, I catch myself looking at that security mirror in the corner. And I swear, just for a second, I can see him standing there. Still dripping. Still staring. Still trying to warn whoever wasn't supposed to be there. Because here's what keeps me up at night: if he was warning me that I wasn't supposed to be there, then who was? What was supposed to happen on that anniversary? And did I accidentally dodge something by being warned, or did I mess up something that was meant to occur? Sometimes I think about checking the cameras from that night again, but I reckon some things are better left alone. Some warnings you should just take at face value and be grateful you listened. Even if you didn't have a choice. I've been cleaning the Hartwell Tower for 6 years now, and I thought I knew every inch of that building. 23 floors of corporate offices, all glass and chrome, and that soulless modern design that makes every building look the bloody same. My shift starts at 11, finishes at 6, and for the most part, I'm completely alone. Just me, my cleaning trolley, and the hum of the air conditioning keeping me company. The lift had always been a bit dodgy, yeah? Sometimes it'd judder between floors, or the doors would stick. Nothing major, just the usual quirks you get in a building that's been standing since the 80s. But about 3 months ago, something changed. Every single night, at exactly 13 minutes past 3, the lift would open on whatever floor I was working on. The doors would slide apart with that soft ding, the interior lights would be on, and absolutely nobody would be inside. First time it happened, I figured someone had called it by accident, pressed the button then buggered off. But it kept happening. Every single night. Same time. Empty lift. I mentioned it to Pete, the daytime security guard, but he just laughed it off. Building's automated, innit, he said. Probably some maintenance protocol or something. I wanted to believe him, but there was something about it that felt wrong. The way the doors would stay open for exactly 30 seconds, like it was waiting for someone. The way the lights inside seemed dimmer than usual, more yellow than white. The way my stomach would drop every time I heard that ding echo through the empty floor. Last Thursday night, I decided I'd had enough of wondering. I'd finished the 14th floor early and was sat in the kitchenette having a cuppa when I heard it. That familiar ding, the soft mechanical whir of the doors opening. I checked my phone. 3:13 a.m. on the dot. I walked over to the lift, my footsteps echoing on the polished floor. The doors were open, the lift empty as always, that yellowish light spilling out into the corridor. My reflection stared back at me from the mirrored rear wall, looking knackered and a bit mental for what I was about to do. Right then, I muttered to myself. Let's see what you're about. I stepped inside. The doors closed immediately, faster than they normally would. Before I could press any buttons, the lift lurched downward. Not the smooth descent you'd expect, but a proper stomach-dropping plunge that made me grab the handrail. The floor indicator above the doors flickered, 14, 13, 12, 11. Then straight to B1, the basement where they keep the bins and maintenance equipment. But it didn't stop there. The display went dark for a moment, then showed B2. My heart started hammering. There was no B2. The building only had one basement level. I jabbed at the button for the ground floor, then the alarm button. Nothing. The lift kept descending, the cables groaning around me like something alive. B3. The lift finally jerked to a stop. I stood there, frozen, watching those doors. Every instinct was screaming at me to stay put, to mash every button until the lift took me back up. But the doors were already opening, sliding apart to reveal something that absolutely should not exist. A corridor stretched out before me, all bare concrete and exposed pipes. Proper unfinished, like construction had just stopped halfway through. The air that wafted in was freezing cold and smelled of damp and something else, something chemical and wrong. Emergency lights mounted on the walls cast everything in a sickly orange glow, the kind that turns shadows into living things. I could see old office furniture lining the walls. Filing cabinets from the 70s, metal desks covered in dust sheets, ancient computers with those massive beige monitors. It was like someone had shoved decades worth of discarded equipment down here and forgotten about it. Then I heard it. Click-clack, click-clack-clack, click. A typewriter. Someone was typing on an actual bloody typewriter, the sound echoing down that concrete hallway from somewhere in the darkness beyond the emergency lights. Steady, rhythmic, like whoever was typing knew exactly what they were writing. "Hello?" My voice came out as barely a whisper. The typing stopped. The silence that followed was somehow worse. I could hear water dripping somewhere, the distant groan of pipes, and my own breathing coming way too fast. The typing started again, faster this time. Frantic, even. Then another one joined in from a different direction. Then another. Within seconds, it sounded like a whole office full of people typing away in the dark, the clicks and clacks overlapping into this horrible mechanical symphony. I stumbled backward into the lift and started hammering the ground floor button. The doors stayed open. The typing got louder, closer. I could see something moving in the shadows at the far end of the corridor, multiple somethings, heading toward the lift with that same rhythmic clicking following them. Close, close, please bloody close. I was almost crying now, slamming my palm against every button on the panel. Finally, the doors began to slide shut. Just before they closed completely, I saw them. Figures in the darkness, dozens of them, all sat at desks that hadn't been there a moment ago, all typing away on ancient typewriters. Their heads were down, faces hidden, but I could see their fingers moving in perfect unison. Click-clack, click-clack, click. The lift shot upward so fast I nearly fell over. I watched the display flicker through the floors, B3, B2, B1, then straight up to ground. When the doors opened, I practically fell out into the lobby, my legs barely holding me up. The normal lights, the familiar marble floors, the security desk, it all looked like heaven. I left my trolley, left everything, and legged it straight home. Didn't even clock out properly. Spent the rest of the night sat in my kitchen with every light on, drinking tea and trying to convince myself I'd imagined it all. But Friday morning, I got a call from my supervisor, Janet. She sounded confused, a bit annoyed. Apparently, Pete had found my trolley abandoned by the lift and wanted to know what happened. I went in the lift, I told her, my voice still shaky. It took me down to B3. There were people down there, typing, and... "Laura, love," she interrupted gently, "the lift's been out of order for 3 months. There's a sign on it and everything. Maintenance have been waiting on a part from Germany. It shouldn't even be running." I went cold all over. That's not possible. I've been using it every night. It opens at 3:13, I stepped inside last night. The lift can't open, Laura. The doors are physically jammed. We've had to use the service lift or the stairs since August. I went back that night, despite every part of me screaming not to. Had to see for myself. There it was, the main lift, with a massive out of order sign taped across the doors and a metal barrier in front of it. The display above was completely dark, dead. According to the building manager who I cornered, it had been like that for months. But here's what proper does my head in. When I looked at the doors, really looked at them, I could see handprints in the dust. Fresh ones. And when I checked my phone, there was a photo I didn't remember taking. Must have snapped it by accident in my panic. It showed the lift display, clear as day, glowing with those letters, B3. I handed in my notice the next day. Told them I'd found a better position, didn't matter that it paid less. Some buildings have secrets buried in their foundations, yeah? Some doors should stay closed. And some lifts are running on a schedule that's got sod all to do with maintenance protocols or automated systems. I still wake up sometimes at 3:13 a.m., and I swear I can hear it. That softing echoing through the dark, doors opening for passengers who've got nowhere left to go but down. I've been working at Bridgewater Mills for 15 years, worked my way up from floor supervisor to night foreman. The place is proper old, been making textiles since 1952, all red brick and iron beams, the kind of building that creaks and groans like it's got arthritis. Most of the factory's been updated over the years, new machinery, better lighting, health and safety improvements. But Section 9, the original production floor at the far end of the east wing, that's been sealed off since before I even started. Asbestos, they said. Too expensive to remove, cheaper to just lock it up and pretend it doesn't exist. The alarm started going off about 6 weeks ago. Every single night at 2:30, like clockwork. The fire alarm in Section 9 would trigger, sending the whole system into a frenzy. Lights flashing, that horrible blaring siren echoing through the empty factory. First few times it happened, we evacuated, called the fire brigade, did everything by the book. But there was never any smoke, no heat signatures, nothing. The fire service eventually told us it was probably faulty wiring, told us to get it sorted. Problem was, Section 9's electrical system was supposedly completely disconnected. Had been for years. The alarm shouldn't have been able to trigger at all, yet there it was, every night, screaming into the darkness at exactly 2:30 a.m. My night crew got used to it after a while. We'd just reset the system from the control room and carry on. But it proper got under my skin, yeah? Something about it felt deliberate, like someone was taking the piss. I started checking the security cameras obsessively, all 8 feeds covering the factory floor. Nothing unusual, just empty corridors and still machinery. Until last Tuesday. I was in the control room doing my rounds on the monitors when the alarm went off, bang on schedule. But this time, camera 4, the one pointing down the corridor towards section 9, showed something. Movement. Just a flicker at first, like a shadow passing across the frame. I rewound it, watched it again. There. Something definitely moved behind the door to section 9, visible through the small wire-reinforced window. That's bollocks, I muttered, leaning closer to the screen. The door was chained shut, had been for years. Nobody could get in there. I watched for another few minutes, and there it was again. A definite shape moving past the window, slow and deliberate. Right, I thought. Enough of this. I grabbed the heavy torch from the equipment locker and the bolt cutters from maintenance. If some kids had broken in for a laugh or some homeless bloke was dossing in there, they were about to get a proper earful. I radioed down to Terry, one of my machine operators. Tell, I'm checking out section 9. Something's moving about in there. You're having a laugh, came his crackling response. That place is sealed tighter than a duck's ass. Yeah, well, I'm looking at the camera right now, mate. Something's definitely in there. Just keeping you in the loop, yeah? Rather you than me, boss. That place gives me the creeps. The walk to section 9 took about 5 minutes through the main factory floor. My footsteps echoed off the concrete, and the machinery loomed like sleeping giants in the dim emergency lighting. The temperature seemed to drop the closer I got to the east wing. By the time I reached the corridor, I could see my breath misting in the air. The door to section 9 stood at the end of the hallway, chains still wrapped around the handles, padlock intact. But the window? Christ, the window was fogged up from the inside, condensation running down the glass like something had been breathing on it. And there, in that condensation, I could see handprints. Fresh ones. Small, like a child's or a woman's hands. I stood there for a long moment, torch beam steady on that door, every instinct telling me to turn around and walk away. But I'd been a foreman for 8 years. Couldn't go back and tell the lads I'd bottled it, could I? The bolt cutters made short work of the chain. It fell away with a heavy clatter that made me jump, nerves already shot. The door wasn't locked, just stiff from disuse. It groaned open, and a wall of air hit me, hot, stale, and absolutely reeking of burnt fabric. Like someone had set fire to a whole rail of clothes. Hello? I called out, my voice swallowed by the darkness beyond. This is private property. You need to come out now. Nothing. Just that smell, getting stronger, and a sound I couldn't quite place. A rhythmic mechanical noise, like old machinery running. But the power was supposed to be off. I stepped inside, torch sweeping across the space. Section 9 was massive, the ceiling disappearing into shadows above, old production lines still in place. Looms and spinning machines covered in decades of dust, looking like something from a museum. The mechanical sound was louder now, and I realized what it was. One of the old looms was running, the shuttle flying back and forth, threads weaving together. That's not possible, I whispered, walking toward it. The loom shouldn't work. There was no power, no way for it to. That's when I saw the uniforms. Hanging on a rail beside the loom, dozens of them. The old Bridgewater Mills work uniform from back in the day, navy blue with red piping, the company logo embroidered on the chest. I'd seen photos of them in the office, the kind of thing workers wore in the 60s and 70s. But these looked brand new, tags still attached, like they'd just come off the production line. I reached out, touched one. The fabric was warm. Actually warm, like someone had just been wearing it. Then I saw the name tag on the one hanging at the front, stitched into the breast pocket in red thread, Miguel Santos. My name. My full name, on a uniform that had to be at least 50 years old. My hands started shaking, the torch beam wavering. This was wrong, all of this was seriously wrong. I needed to get out, needed to. The loom stopped. The sudden silence was deafening, and in that silence, I heard breathing. Not my own. This was slow, labored, coming from deeper in section 9, from somewhere in the darkness beyond my torch beam. Who's there? I tried to sound authoritative, but my voice cracked. Show yourself. The breathing got closer. I could hear footsteps now, multiple sets, shuffling across the concrete floor. My torch caught movement, figures emerging from between the old machines. They were wearing the uniforms. All of them. Men and women, different ages, different heights, but all dressed identically. And every single one of them had a name tag. Miguel Santos. Every tag. Every uniform. All of them. They weren't looking at me, not exactly. Their eyes were unfocused, glassy, like sleepwalkers. They moved in unison, heading toward the production line, taking their positions at the machines. The looms started up again, all of them, filling the air with that mechanical rhythm. The workers began their tasks, hands moving in practiced motions, weaving invisible thread on machines that shouldn't work. I backed toward the door, couldn't take my eyes off them. One of them finally looked at me, a woman with grey hair and deep lines around her eyes. She smiled, sad and knowing, and pointed to an empty space at one of the looms. "Not yet," she said, her voice barely audible over the machinery. "But soon. Your shift's already started, Miguel. Same time, same place, every night. You just haven't clocked in yet." I ran. Proper legged it back through that door, down the corridor, not stopping until I burst into the control room. Terry was there, along with Marcus and Javad from the late shift, all of them staring at me like I'd lost the plot. "Boss, where the hell have you been?" Terry said, standing up so fast his chair rolled backward. "We've been trying to radio you for hours." "Hours?" I checked my watch. 6:45 a.m. That couldn't be right. I'd only been gone 20 minutes, half an hour at most. "You went to check section 9 at 2:30, Marcus said slowly, like he was talking to someone who'd had a bang on the head. "It's nearly 7. We were about to call the police." I pulled up the security footage with trembling hands, rewound it to 2:30 a.m. There I was, walking down the corridor with my torch. The timestamp showed me reaching the door, opening it, stepping inside. Then, nothing. The door stayed open, darkness visible beyond, but I never came back out. 4 hours of footage, and I just vanished. "That's not right," I said, my voice barely a whisper. "I was only in there for—" "Look at the timestamp," Javad interrupted, pointing at the screen. 2:31 a.m., you go in. 6:42 a.m., you come running out. 4 hours and 11 minutes, mate. Where were you?" I couldn't answer. Still can't, not really. I told them I must have got disoriented, lost track of time in the dark, made up some bollocks about investigating. But the truth? I don't know where I was. 4 hours gone in what felt like minutes, and all I've got to show for it is the smell of burnt fabric that won't wash out of my clothes and the memory of all those people wearing my name. I handed in my notice this morning. Can't stay there, not after that. But here's what keeps me up at night, the alarm still goes off at 2:30 a.m. They've got a new night foreman now, bloke named David Chen. Nice enough fella, bit younger than me. Last night, Terry called me, proper shaken. Said they found something in section 9 during a site inspection. Another uniform, brand new, hanging with all the others. Name tag said David Chen. The shift pattern continues, yeah? The factory keeps running, even in the sealed sections, even in the dark. And somewhere in there, in that space where time moves differently, where 4 hours become 20 minutes, workers are clocking in for shifts that never end. I still wake up at 2:30 a.m. every night, right on the door, and I can hear it, that mechanical rhythm of looms running in the darkness, weaving something none of us are meant to see. "My shift's already started," she said. "I just haven't clocked in yet. But I reckon I'm running out of time. I've been working at Telesure customer support for about 18 months now, taking the graveyard shift because it pays an extra £2 an hour and I need the money. It's mind-numbing work, yeah? Mostly just elderly people who can't work their mobile phones or blokes who've forgotten their account passwords. The office is dead quiet after midnight, just me and maybe 3 other agents spread across a floor that seats 200 during the day. The calls started coming in about a month ago. Always the same time, give or take a few minutes either side of 1 in the morning. My headset would beep, the caller ID would flash up on my screen, a number I didn't recognize, proper long string of digits that didn't look like any UK number I'd ever seen. First time it happened, I answered like normal. "Good evening, Telesure customer support, you're through to Rachel, how can I help you today?" Static. Just this horrible crackling noise, like someone had wrapped the phone in tin foil and shoved it underwater. I waited, thinking it was just a dodgy connection, but then I heard breathing. Slow, deliberate, like whoever was on the other end was right up against the receiver. "Hello?" I tried again. "If you can hear me, you might need to check your connection." The breathing stopped. Then came the whispering. So faint I had to turn up the volume on my headset, pressing it against my ear. Multiple voices, all talking over each other, none of them making sense. Just fragments of words, syllables that didn't form anything coherent. Then, clear as day, cutting through the static, "Rachel." My name. Someone said my name. I proper froze, my finger hovering over the disconnect button. "Who is this?" The line went dead. Call duration, 2 minutes, 37 seconds. I sat there for a moment, heart hammering, trying to rationalize it. Wrong number, maybe. Or some prank caller who'd got my name from our website. Telesure lists all their customer service agents online with photos and first names. Could have been anyone having a laugh. But it kept happening. Every single night, same time, same number. The calls would last anywhere from 2 to 5 minutes, always the same pattern. Static, breathing, whispering, then my name. Sometimes it sounded urgent, sometimes almost sing-song, but it was always there. Rachel. 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 I mentioned it to Bradley, one of the other night shift agents, but he just shrugged. Probably some nutter, innit? Just disconnect when they call. I tried that. Soon as the number came up, I'd reject the call. But here's the thing, it would just ring again. And again. Until I answered. The system wouldn't let me block it, wouldn't let me transfer it. It was like the call was specifically routed to me, bypassing all our normal protocols. After 2 weeks of this, I went to IT. Asked them to trace the number, find out where it was coming from. Martin, the tech support bloke, looked into it while I waited in his cramped little office that smelled of energy drinks and stress. That's weird, he muttered, clicking through screens. This number, it's not showing up anywhere. Not in our system, not in any database I can access. It's like it doesn't exist. What do you mean it doesn't exist? I'm getting calls from it every bloody night. I believe you, yeah? But look, he turned the monitor toward me. When I run it through our verification system, it comes back as invalid. Format doesn't match any country code, doesn't correspond to any network. It's just wrong. Can you at least see what's being said? There must be recordings. His face went a bit pale. That's the other weird bit. According to our system, you're answering the phone, call lasts a few minutes, but there's no audio captured. The recordings are completely blank. Just dead air. That night, I decided to sort it myself. I pulled out my mobile, set it to record, and waited. When the call came through at 1:03 a.m., I answered and held my phone up to the headset speaker. Hello, you're through to Teleshore customer support. The static hit immediately, louder than usual, making me wince. The breathing was there too, but this time it sounded panicked, ragged, like someone who'd been running. The whispering started, and I focused on it, trying to make out actual words. Can't get out. Help me please. Been here so long. My blood ran cold. The voices were familiar. Too familiar. I cranked up the volume on my phone, pressed it harder against the headset. Rachel please. Don't understand. Answer the phone. It was my voice. All of them. Every whisper was me, begging, pleading, crying for help. Different versions of my own voice, overlapping, desperate. And underneath it all, that breathing, getting faster and faster until it was almost hyperventilating. Then, like always, clear and close, Rachel. But this time I recognized it. It wasn't just my voice. It was exactly my voice, the way I sounded right now, in this moment, saying my own name. I ripped the headset off and disconnected the call. Sat there shaking, staring at my phone still recording. When I played it back, I could hear everything. The static, the breathing, my own voice whispering in the background. Proof. I had actual proof this time. I didn't sleep that day. Went straight home and spent hours running the audio through every enhancement app one could find online. Noise reduction, frequency isolation, pitch correction. The more I cleaned it up, the clearer the words became, and the worse it got. I can't get out. Help me please. Been here so long. Rachel please. Don't understand. Answer the phone. And underneath it all, so faint I almost missed it, don't answer. Over and over, don't answer, don't answer, don't answer. I called in sick that night. Couldn't face going back, couldn't face answering that call again. But Bradley rang me around 1:30, proper worried. Rach, you alright? Your phone's been ringing off the hook here. Same weird number. It's been going for 20 minutes straight, just ringing and ringing. It's doing everyone's head in. Don't answer it, I said quickly. Brad, seriously, don't let anyone answer it. Bit late for that. Sarah picked it up, said it was just static. Call's still connected though, been going for, he paused. Hang on, Sarah, you alright? Sarah? I heard shouting in the background, Sarah's voice rising in panic, then the line went dead. I went in the next morning, early, before my shift. Sarah was there in the break room, looking absolutely shattered. She wouldn't talk about the call, just kept saying she couldn't remember, that it was all fuzzy. But her hands were shaking so badly she could barely hold her coffee cup. Management moved me to a different cubicle that afternoon. Said they were reorganizing the floor, just standard reshuffling, nothing to do with my complaints about the calls. My new spot was 3 rows over, completely different setup. I should have felt relieved, but something was nagging at me. During my break, I went back to my old desk. Someone else's things were already there, a bloke from the day's shift I didn't know. I knelt down, pretending to tie my shoe, and looked underneath the desk where my legs would have been for the past month. There, carved into the metal support beam in shaky, frantic letters, "Don't answer." The metal was scratched deep, like someone had used their fingernails or a pen, working at it desperately over time. And there was something else. Dates. Tiny marks scratched next to the words, counting something. I took a photo with my phone, zoomed in later. 37 marks. One for each day I'd been getting the calls. I handed in my notice the next day. Didn't give 2 weeks, didn't care about burning bridges. I just left. But here's what I can't get out of my head. Before I walked out, I checked the employee records. Telesure has high turnover, always has, especially on night shift. I looked up who'd worked at my cubicle before me. Girl named Emma, 24, worked there for about 5 weeks before she quit suddenly. Before her was someone named Jade, similar story. Before that, a bloke called Marcus. I found Emma on Facebook, sent her a message asking if she'd ever gotten strange calls at work. She responded within minutes, "How did you get my number? Stop calling me. I've told you all I remember. Please just leave me alone." I never called her. Never even had her number. I'm working at a different call center now, day shift only, better pay. It's been 3 weeks, and everything's been fine. Normal calls, normal people, nothing weird. But last night, my mobile rang at 1:03 a.m. Number wasn't saved, long string of digits that didn't look quite right. I didn't answer. Let it ring through to voicemail. This morning, I checked the message. For minutes of static and breathing. And right at the end, so quiet I had to replay it 5 times to be sure, my own voice whispering, "Rachel, please. I've been here so long. Why won't you answer? Why won't you help me?" There were 37 marks under that desk. I worked there for 37 days. The calls started on my first night. I don't know how long Emma lasted before me. Or Jade. Or Marcus. I don't know if they're still there, somehow, in that static, whispering and begging and warning. I don't know if every person who answers becomes part of it, trapped in whatever space exists between the ring and the disconnect. What I do know is this, the number's in my phone now. It calls every night at 1:03 a.m. And each time I don't answer, the voicemail gets longer. More voices. More versions of me, layering over each other, all desperate, all afraid. The call center replaced me within a week. Girl named Sophie, just turned 26. I found her Instagram, thought about sending her a message. Thought about warning her. But what would I even say? Don't answer the phone at work? She'd think I was mental. Maybe she'll figure it out on her own. Maybe she'll see the marks under the desk, carved by Emma or Jade or Marcus or me or whoever came before us all. Maybe she won't answer. Or maybe, in about 37 days, there'll be a new voice in the static, whispering her own name back to herself, begging someone, anyone, to pick up the phone and help. Don't answer. That's what the message said. But I think it's already too late for that. I've been doing security work for near on 12 years now, and I thought I'd seen everything. Worked nightclubs in Manchester, shopping centers, construction sites. But the job at Harrington Distribution Center was supposed to be easy money, yeah? Just me, walking rounds in a massive warehouse, making sure nobody's nicked any pallets. The place is enormous, about 200,000 square feet of racking and storage, mostly holding stock for online retailers. During the day it's mental, forklifts everywhere, workers picking orders. But night shift? Dead silent. Just me and the motion sensor lights. Those lights are brilliant, actually. Save on electricity, innit? They only come on when they detect movement, so you can track yourself walking through the warehouse by following the pools of light switching on ahead of you. Makes the job easier, means you can see if anything's moving that shouldn't be. It started about 3 weeks ago, just after the clocks went back. I was doing my usual 11 o'clock rounds, walking down aisle 47, that's one of the long ones at the back, goes on for about 200 meters, floor to ceiling with boxes of God knows what. I was about halfway down when I noticed the lights. They were switching on ahead of me. Not just the ones I was walking toward, but further ahead. One would click on, then a second, then a third, like someone was walking parallel to my route but a few aisles over. I stopped, watching. The lights kept going, click click click, moving deeper into the warehouse. "Hello?" I called out, my voice swallowed by the massive space. "This is security. If someone's in here, you need to identify yourself now." The lights stopped. Everything went quiet except for the hum of the refrigeration units at the far end. I stood there for a good minute, hand on my radio, ready to call it in. Then the lights started again, but this time they were moving back toward me, coming down the aisle parallel to mine. I legged it over to where they were, torch out, ready to confront whoever was messing about. But when I got there, the aisle was empty. Boxes stacked neat as you like, floor clean, nobody there. The lights were still on, slowly clicking off one by one as the sensors timed out. "Probably just a rat or something," I muttered, trying to convince myself. Big enough rat could trigger the sensors. But I didn't believe it. The pattern was too deliberate, too human. I continued my rounds, shaking it off, telling myself I was being daft. Got to the far end of the warehouse, checked the loading bays, everything locked up tight. Started heading back to the security office, taking my usual route along the eastern wall. That's when it happened again. The lights ahead of me started switching on, but not in front of me, off to my left, matching my pace exactly. When I walked faster, they moved faster. When I stopped, they stopped. I turned my torch toward the aisle where the lights were activating. Between the gaps in the racking, I could see movement. A shadow, person-shaped, walking at exactly the same speed as me. Same height. Same build. "Oi!" I shouted, my voice cracking a bit. "Stop right there." The shadow kept moving. I ran toward it, weaving between the aisles, trying to cut it off. But every time I got close, it was just empty space with the lights clicking off behind where the figure should have been. My heart was absolutely hammering, sweat running down my back despite the cold. I made it back to the security office, locked the door behind me, and pulled up the camera feeds. 48 cameras covering the whole warehouse, and I rewound to 11 o'clock, my first rounds. There I was on camera 12, walking down aisle 47, torch in hand, looking normal as anything. Then I switched to camera 15, the parallel aisle where I'd first seen the lights. My blood went cold. There was someone there. Someone in a security uniform, same as mine. Same height, same build, same walk. The footage was grainy in the low light, but I could make out enough. They were walking at exactly the same pace as me, moving deeper into the warehouse while I followed in the next aisle over. I cycled through more cameras, tracking both of us, me and this thing. Every time I appeared on one feed, it appeared on another, always one aisle over, always parallel, always matching my movements exactly. When I stopped, it stopped. When I started again, it started again. The really messed up part? On camera 23, when I'd run over to confront it, you could see me entering the aisle from one end. And you could see the other me, the duplicate, walking out the other end, calm as you like, heading deeper into the warehouse. I watched the footage from my return journey. There I was, walking back toward the office, moving quickly, proper spooked. And there was the duplicate, in the parallel aisle, matching me step for step. But this time, in one brief moment when both of us passed under the same overhead light, I caught a glimpse of its face. It looked exactly like me. Same face, same expression, but the eyes were wrong. Too dark, too hollow, like someone had cut holes in a photograph. I didn't sleep that night. Sat in the office with every light on, watching the monitors, waiting for it to appear again. It didn't. The warehouse stayed dark and still, just the occasional light clicking on for what I desperately hoped were actual rats. When my supervisor Dave showed up at 6 in the morning, I was ready to tell him everything. Show him the footage, explain what I'd seen. But before I could say anything, he looked at me with this confused expression. "Darren, mate, why'd you clock in twice last night?" "What?" "I didn't. I clocked in at 10:30, like always." He showed me the system on his tablet. 2 entries for my employee number. First one at 22:30, exactly when I'd arrived. Second one at 23:14. I pulled up the camera footage, found the timestamp. 23:14 was the exact moment I'd seen the duplicate on camera 23, walking out of the aisle while I entered from the other side. "Must be a system glitch," Dave said, but he didn't sound convinced. "I'll get IT to look at it." I showed him the security footage, walking him through what I'd seen. He went pale, proper pale, and sat down heavily in the office chair. "This happened before," he said quietly. "About 2 years ago. Bloke named Terry was working nights. Started seeing lights following him, found footage of someone who looked just like him. He quit after a week, said the place was haunted or cursed or some such bollocks. And you didn't think to mention this when you hired me. Didn't think it'd happen again, did I?" Terry was, well, he'd been sampling the warehouse stock, if you know what I mean. Thought he was just off his face, imagining things. "I'm stone cold sober, Dave. That thing is real, and it's clocking in with my employee number." Dave pulled up the historical logs, going back months. There, every few weeks, were duplicate clock INS. Different guards, different shifts, but always the same pattern. 2 entries, the second one always appearing somewhere between 11 at night and 3 in the morning. "What happens if it clocks out?" I asked. Dave's face went even paler. He scrolled down to one entry from 8 months ago, a night guard named Marcus. 2 clock INS that night. But only 1 clock out. Marcus's clock out time, 6 o'clock. The duplicate's clock out time. It was still clocked in. 8 months later, according to the system, that duplicate was still in the warehouse. I looked at the camera feeds, scanning through the aisles. Everything was quiet, the day shift starting to arrive, forklifts beeping as they started their routes. "Where's Marcus now?" I asked, though I already knew the answer. He didn't show up for his shift one night. We tried calling, went to his flat. Place was empty, like he'd just walked out and never come back. Police investigated, came up with nothing. He'd just vanished. I quit that day. Told Dave I was done, didn't care about the notice period. But before I left, I pulled up the current system status, checking who was clocked in. My name was there, obviously. Started at 22:30 the previous night, clocked out at 6 o'clock this morning. But there was another entry. Started at 23:14. Still active. Still in the building. I watched the monitors as I packed my stuff. Somewhere in those endless aisles, the lights were clicking on, one by one, as something walked through the darkness. Something that looked like me, moved like me, that the system recognized as me. Dave got a new night guard within the week. Bloke called Simon, mid-40s, ex-military. I wanted to warn him, wanted to tell him to watch out for the lights, for the duplicate. But what could I say that wouldn't make me sound mental? I still get alerts from the Harrington employee app on my phone, even though I've left. Haven't been able to delete it, like the app won't let me fully log out. Last week, I got a notification at 23:14. Someone had clocked in using my employee number. But I haven't worked there in nearly 3 weeks. I called Dave, asked him what was going on. He sounded knackered, stressed. Simon quit yesterday, he said. Said he kept seeing someone in the warehouse. Someone who looked like him. Found footage of it on the cameras, same as you. He's the third guard we've lost this month. Dave, what the hell is in that warehouse? I don't know, mate. I really don't. But the owner won't shut it down, won't even acknowledge there's a problem. Too much money in storage contracts. We just keep hiring new guards and hoping. Hoping what? He went quiet for a long moment. Hoping they're smarter than the ones who disappeared. How many, Dave? How many have disappeared? Since the warehouse opened? 7. 7 night guards who just stopped showing up. And according to the system, they're all still clocked in. All of them. Still in there somewhere. I hung up, deleted his number. Tried again to remove the employee app from my phone, but it won't delete. And every few nights, at exactly 23:14, I get that notification. Someone clocking in with my credentials. Last night, I was walking home from the pub, cutting through the industrial estate because it's quicker. I wasn't anywhere near Harrington, was on the other side of town. But as I walked down the dark street, the lights started coming on ahead of me. Not the streetlights, the motion sensors on the warehouse buildings. Click, 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 one by one, leading deeper into the estate. And off to my left, parallel to my path, I saw a shadow. Same height, same walk, moving in perfect sync with me. I ran. Didn't stop until I got home, locked every door, turned on every light. My phone buzzed. Notification from the Harrington employee app, shift started, 23:14. But I'm not at the warehouse. Haven't been for weeks. So where am I clocking in? And more importantly, which one of us is real?